sorry. No. Okay. Just stand in front of this one. Stand right in front of me.
I think collaboration and the difference that we've seen in Tacoma is that everybody brings their strengths to the table.
It's about really focusing in on what students need and figuring out who has what to offer.
Collaboration's at its best when there's a shared mission and a commitment to action.
When we work together, we can stretch our resources.
So many organizations that are really coming together in our collaborative strength.
We are using the strengths of all of our organizations together to be able to build the circle of what our community needs.
Collaborative practices allows us to focus on individuals from cradle to career to retirement.
It's not just one organization, it's the whole community getting together for the same cause.
It's really less about you and what you do, but why you're doing it.
MetroParks Tacoma's mission is to create healthy opportunities to play, learn, and grow, and the only way that we can do that is if we look at the whole community of Tacoma.
Partnering with Children's Museum allows us to deliver a much more profound result.
Understanding what Leandra, for instance, in MetroParks is bringing to the table, that we can't, not leaning too heavily on one another so we can share the load and get to where we're trying to get to.
You sit down at the table with all these professionals that care about the same things that you do, that have the same passions and missions.
We're part of something bigger when we're part of Graduating Tacoma.
It's very powerful to walk into those meetings and see people from 15 or 20 different organizations working towards the same mission and the same goal.
Allows me to have the space and the time to be able to do this work.
When we work together, Tacoma gets inspired.
Your ability to have an even greater impact is exponentially expanded.
When we work together as a community, there is no bumpy handoff.
We can deliver so much more
People working together really believe in Tacoma and believe in the families that we're serving.
and deliver not only on our mission, but the purpose of building a better city and a better region.
Keeping children at the center, always.
There's real magic that happens.
That impact is immeasurable.
Together, we're able to move mountains and make a difference in this community.
The people that are most important are those people that are one-on-one with our kids every single day.
It's not about our agencies anymore, or our organizations. It's about our Tacoma kids.
And we're able to create a community that meets the needs of all of our kids and families.
Everyone has to be at the table. It can't happen in isolation. We really have to work together to create a child-centered community.
This is what you can change when you truly collaborate.
It takes all of us.
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 Yes, all of us.
Let's give another round of applause for our Gray Middle School Choir. Aren't they beautiful? Well, I'd love to thank everyone for joining us for the release of the 2019 Community Impact Report. And definitely want to extend a special thanks to the sponsors who helped make this event open to all. Most notably, our presenting sponsor, Boeing. We can clap, it's not too much. Our principal sponsor, Tacoma Public Utilities, as well as the Puyallup Tribe of Indians, Rainier Connect, and Wells Fargo. And I'd like to thank our advocates spanning the city of Tacoma. Thanks. I know that's a lot of clapping, but it does help you wake up. My name's Holly Bamford Hunt, and I currently serve as board chair for the Foundation for Tacoma Students. For those who don't know, the Foundation for Tacoma Students is the backbone organization to the Graduate Tacoma community movement. As a convener and results-based facilitator, the Foundation's role is to bring people like you together so that you're not working alone, but rather with the support of a connected community, which is what brings us here today. As always, this day is special. I see, it's just amazing to see the number of people in the room who are committed to student success. And it's also an important opportunity to look at our progress towards reaching our community-built goal. So to look at our community-built goal, in 2010, the Graduate Tacoma movement made a commitment by the class of 2020 that we will increase by 50% both the high school graduation rate of Tacoma Public Schools students and those who complete a college degree or technical certificate. We also agreed that success will require measuring and closing gaps in access, opportunities, and achievement for all students from cradle to college and career. So every year, the release of the Community Impact Report showcases the breadth of work that is happening across our community to open doors for Tacoma students. And I thank you for that. By way of the data, the report likewise provides information that you can use to strengthen your efforts and strategies. In today's program, you'll hear how far we've come since making this commitment, where we need to lean in, and also as we approach the year 2020, it's hard to believe it's coming up, how a theme of transitions comes into play, both for students and for our work supporting students. So to begin, it's my distinct pleasure to welcome to the stage a true champion of collaboration and collective impact, and that's Tacoma Public Schools Superintendent Carla Santurno. Come on up.
Hello, good morning. It's great to see you. It's great to have you here to be a part of this celebration. It is a celebration. If I kind of look a little giddy today, it's true. So my son and his wife and their 3 dogs and their cat and their 2 guinea pigs and their fish Fletcher have all moved out of my house. They were married this Saturday in a great ceremony, and all my relatives from Denver were in my house, and the last one caught the last plane out yesterday. So I can go home and sit on my couch, and any suggestions for binge TV, I don't plan on getting off of it all weekend. So it's great to have you here, and it's great to be a part of this celebration. I love it when we come together and look at the impact that our work has been. As I look out on this crowd, it is so exciting to see people that I see all the time in our schools and going through the community. We certainly are the core of what has made a difference in Tacoma students. And so as we look at the gains and also at the work we have to do, I think it'll be really exciting to know that that we have got what it takes to get it. I just came back, our Wallace Foundation grant that we have, I was in New York and with at least 50 other superintendents from across the country that are doing all kinds of innovative work with their students. And I can't tell you how many people came up to me and said, "You're from Tacoma?" And I said, "Yes." And they wanted to have a conversation about partners. And what's interesting to me is most of them want to say, "So what did you do? How did you do it?" They want to know if I put something in the water or, how did that happen? And so one of the things I've come to understand is that this community really is unique. And the fact that all of you came together and worked through the foundation and, your own departments and entities to help students is really an innovative and different kind of approach to helping the community. So I want to make sure that you understand that. Our partnerships are outstanding. They hit every little piece of our school district and our community and provide supports in so many ways. And they just don't have that in our cities. Two recent things. On Monday, we opened the first medical clinic at Oakland High School. A great partnership between MultiCare and the Tacoma Public Schools and some university partners and communities and schools who put the seed of this idea in the very beginning. So our students that go to Oakland, who are some of our most neediest high school students, and some of them with their children, will have a pediatrician right in the building. It is so exciting. We're really glad about that. It was good. So, this has been a difficult year. It's been a crazy year. I don't plan on repeating it. We're going to get through this, but all of you know that we have had such a difficult year dealing with the funding issues that came out of the legislation last year. And, we need to plan for it no matter, what happens. So it has really helped me reflect as we've gone through every single program, every single service, every single thing we offer in Tacoma Public Schools. We have looked at each one of them and talked about what they are, what they've made up, how they impact. And it gives you, there's two things that happen. One, it gives you a real joy for the amount of work that's going on in this community and how we are supporting kids. And sometimes people think it's just for lower performing kids, but it's not. We are doing all kinds of incredible things to support and help higher achieving students also, and them getting the support that they need. So I want to make sure that I acknowledge that incredible work that's been going on. And we know that a $30 million deficit caused by a shortage in levy funding will make a huge impact on what we're doing. And so this has been another advantage of partners, is having you out there and the Foundation for Tacoma Students and all of you in your different roles have been down to Olympia and talking to legislators about how this will affect Tacoma. And it's not just Tacoma. There's lots of other districts that lost this funding and it's affecting them. But when I've been down there testifying, my greatest joy is not being alone, but having all kinds of, all different organizations and people there right beside us, which shows that this is a community effort and that we need to do it. If you have a chance, please take the time to call our local legislators, because they have been doing a mighty fight. There's 8 of them, and there's many more than that in the legislature, but they have really gone the extra mile to make. So this synergy of having everybody together working toward one goal, I think is going to make a difference. Everybody looks at me and says, so what's happening? Who's going? Nobody in the parking lot will look at me, make eye contact, because they're afraid I'm going to say, oh yeah, I remember you. What do you do? No, it's not been fun. But, we know, we've heard that there's a glimmer of hope and that we may get to a place where there is a deal. But I can honestly tell you that right today, I don't know what the scope of the cuts will be. We've had hope before that has died, so until governor signs, the legislation, we're at a difficult place. So your work, we've appreciated. I want you to know, I think it's made a difference, and we know we're going to have to continue it. And we have all kinds of proposals laid out to deal with a least case scenario where we have a smaller amount to cut, and the worst case scenario. And so we'll work on that. But the greatest thing that we have is that no matter what, our students are going to be better off because of the partnerships we've formed in this room. Because I know that no matter what the funding deficit is and what we have to work with, that it's the people in this room that are going to come together and decide what we can still provide for students to take them on those gains. And what's so incredible is that we know what the measures are, we know what the bars are, we know where we are, we know where we have to go. And all of those things make a difference when you're trying to reach a goal. If you don't measure it, you can't get there. If you do have a goal, then no matter what comes along, you can face it. So thank you. You've given me this confidence. All of you have leaned in when we needed it. And I want to thank you for your dedication and your support, and to let you know that with confidence, I know that we can get through this dilemma. And if everything works out and we at least get a substantial amount of that funding, it's going to be easy street. So we can do it. Thank you very much for your work. It's also my job to introduce the fabulous Tafana Irvin, the Executive Director of the Foundation for Tacoma Schools.
Thank you. Oh, she's too kind. Thank you. You know, the inner cheer coach in me wants to make everyone get up and do a bit of an energizer, but I'm in heels, so you guys get a pass. You're welcome. I do want to thank you all for joining us this morning, particularly for carving time out of your busy schedules. It is incredible the amount of work you all are juggling each and every day to help children achieve success in this community. It's even more incredible the fact that you all will come together each and every year to help us figure out these complex challenges that face our students in Tacoma. And so for that, I'm very, very grateful and thankful to have a community like you in Tacoma. I want to give acknowledgement first, however, to my staff. It has been an interesting month, and I know and recognize when folks are taxed and when pressure is high that things seem to fall through the cracks, but these guys actually rose to the occasion. They were here until wee hours of the night making sure this room was set, that you all had the food you needed, and hopefully enough coffee to get you through this morning. So if I can have the staff around the room just stand for a moment, and if you all could just help me acknowledge and thank the Foundation for Tacoma Students team. Each one of you are so incredible, very dynamic. I am really blessed to have them behind me in this work. I want to also give a thanks to our communications and data team. The report in front of you, which if I have to say so myself, is probably one of the best reports we've produced, is a testament to their hard work and diligence over the last 6 months. Yes, it takes 6 months to produce this, so please read all 41 pages front to back. But I want to thank them for their work. Also, the Star Center, the staff, especially Tacoma Public Schools Gray Middle School. What a fabulous song they did for us this morning. We're so thankful to have them. Please give all of those folks a round of applause as well. So let me dive in. Let me also say this might be a bit dry for some, but super critical for really going to be meaningful about the work we're doing ahead. Today we released the 2019 Impact Report, and in it, it has data that spans across the cradle to career continuum. In it, it has measures in which you all had decided early on were important for us as a community to continue to review. I want to be very clear that today is not a day just of celebrating, nor should that ever be the purpose of these events. Today is a day to see the momentum that has come from us rallying together and working hard, but then also figuring out where do we need to go deeper and what do we need to be paying attention to in the year ahead. And in fact, I'm going to be challenging most of you throughout my time here this morning to think thoughtfully about how you're going to lean in, think differently, strategize creatively in order for us to address some of the disparities that we're seeing in our community. The Graduate Tacoma Community Movement, as defined by Board Chair Banford Hunt, is all of you. You all make up this movement. You all are working every day to support children in our community. You know the challenges they face. You interface with their families. You see the factors that continue to compound on them that are preventing them from achieving success. And you all are trying to do your own programs and juggle how do you be creative in that way at the same time. And that's hard. And we realize that. Our role is not to tell you how to do your job, but figure out ways to make it easier for you to do your job. Find best practices or research, identifying dollars that could be aligned and filtered into this community to connect you to other parts of the community that perhaps could help you make your programs better, and yet you didn't even realize it. Our role is just to be as much of a support to you as possible so you all can continue to do the good work that you are doing. And you all knew early on that you had to figure out what was it we were shooting for. Most of you in this room probably were on that journey with the foundation when it tried to establish its goal. And in 2010, as Board Chair Bamford Hunt mentioned, we set a bold goal, a really audacious one that said we were going to increase by 50% the high school graduation rate for Tacoma Public School students, as well as the college completion rate. And if I'm being honest, we've only realized half of that goal. We also said that success would require measuring the gaps that exist between students of color, those are in poverty, disenfranchised populations like English language learners and or students impacted by housing insecurity or homelessness. We knew that we had to center equity in the conversation. And if I'm being very transparent, you can't rise all tides or boats or whatever the saying is unless you're actually explicitly going deep on the kids that need us the most. Thinking about the students who are furthest away from opportunities, identifying what we need to do differently to help them get to an equal playing field so that then we can figure out how do we achieve success for all students. You all were really audacious and very astute, if I have to say, in 2010 about centering equity. And now that we've seen positive gains by and large across the continuum, there is still so much more work to do. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But first, we'll address the positive gains that we've seen. So it's really incredible to see the work that community organizations and you all are doing each and every day. The first gain is always a bright spot for me. This impact is really grounded around transitions and what happens in a child's life when they're transitioning from one milestone to another. Take, for example, elementary to middle school. Sixth grade achievement is one of our highest performing indicators. And honestly, that's a testament to a lot of our school officials, particularly our counselors, and the way they're wrapping their hands around their families, the community-based organizations that are within those schools. In fact, if you turn to page 16, at some point, you'll see a really great spotlight of a school whose counseling staff and others have identified different ways in which they are helping transitioning fifth graders find their way to their schools in a very seamless way. I have both an elementary school student and a middle school student, and I can tell you, in elementary school, my child loves recess, and he is excited every day when he could tell me what they did at recess. Whereas in middle school, my son is like, I just wanted to get out of sixth period because I was so tired, right? And getting ready for the next one. He's balancing 6 different courses on top of extracurricular activities. That's different than what elementary school students are doing. This transition peak here shows us from baseline to current how students are faring in passing all or all but one course now that they have 6+ classes that they're juggling each and every day. And what's even nice about this particular indicator is that the gaps for most of our students, particularly those of color and impacted by poverty, have nearly closed or are close to 0, which is absolutely great. Oh, yes, clap for that. Next is college entry exams, and again, credit is always going to be given where credit is due. Tacoma Public Schools administrators, staff, and especially their board of directors made a very innovative decision when they said, we are going to remove the barriers that are compounded on students, particularly our marginalized populations, and we're going to give these opportunities to students who need it most. Instead of a student needing to navigate how to get to a test site, register for a test site, pay for the test, and then study for it, Tacoma Public Schools offers that in school 1 day, 2 days a year if you think of juniors, and giving every single child the opportunity to take that exam so that they are better prepared and ready for if they want to pursue a college degree, they already have one of the barriers removed from them. Now we see more than 99% of Tacoma Public Schools taking that exam each and every year. Now that is an incredible testament to removing barriers, being creative in its efforts so that every child is starting to get an equal playing field. What we do know about this particular indicator is now, as a community, we need to turn our efforts to how do we help the students who really want to do well on those exams towards increasing their composite scores. Because for my higher ed folks or those who know anything about college access, the higher your SAT scores are, the more likely you might be to get into college. More importantly, the higher those scores are, the more likely you are to get the financial aid or scholarships that you need to be successful in college. And so we had a great partnership this year, and I do want to call out my friends from Enhanced Prep, I know they're in the room somewhere, who said, let's figure out how do we partner with you, Tacoma, and find ways to offer opportunities for students to take prep courses. It was the first time that we did this, and by and large, every site was full. Every student who wanted to be a part of those training sessions for preparing for college, they had that free of charge, accessible to them with the help that they need. That's how community leans in and gets creative about helping students achieve success. Now, I don't need to remind you all because Superintendent Santorno and her fabulous staff have already released the data, but four-year graduation rate is up yet again. And what I would note about this particular indicator is not just the success we've seen with students graduating 89.6%, or I'm sorry, 89.3%, but rather paying close attention to the students who are most marginalized, paying attention to English language learners or homeless students and students impacted by poverty. What you'll see on page 23 is a really great graph of how Tacoma Public Schools fares against the state of Washington and the two largest districts in our state, which is Seattle Public Schools and Spokane Public Schools. And for all but one of those areas, Tacoma Public School students are outpacing the state average, Seattle Public School, and Spokane Public Schools for all of those students who are most disenfranchised from opportunities. That tells us that we are a resilient community and students have the ability to achieve success, and that we shouldn't pigeonhole them into a box that perhaps they're not capable or able, but rather continue to set high expectations for them that they can and will achieve success when a community leans in. So I'm grateful to be able to share the comparisons because it is the momentum that we need to go into the next year about the work that we're doing, the work we should continue to do, the work that we should be thinking differently about. But it doesn't stop there. And while four-year graduation has seen an increase, likewise, five-year graduation rate has also seen an increase. And just know, five-year graduation was more of the community's goal that said we wanted to give students the opportunity within their five-year time frame to walk across that stage and get their high school diploma. And so we've begun measuring the five-year extended graduation rate in 2010, and we have also seen steady increases for those students. Most notably, is that for the first time in history, we see Pacific Islander students graduating at the top of the class at 95% over every ethnic group in that race. That is something to applaud. While there's a slight dip overall, we are seeing students of color, those impacted by poverty, those others who fall in the housing insecure, or those who are English language learners, they are rising up. So friends, know that our kids are capable. Our kids are able. We've just got to give them and continue to push the supports that they need. So I mentioned we're not here to just celebrate success. We're here to talk about opportunities. And more explicitly, we're here to name the inequities that exist for our students so that we can see a difference over time. So let's talk about some of those opportunities. Superintendent Santorno talked a little bit about the critical times we are facing right now in education, particularly as it pertains to budget cuts and such by the local legislature. What I would say about that is, while community has stepped up and leaned in a number of ways, it might be challenging for you too to think about your programming, either in buildings or with partner schools in this district. And we need to think differently about how we're going to adapt to that. We are an adaptive community, and so the thought process of that starts today, and I'm going to challenge you all to think about that in just a few minutes. But first, I want to just call out a few data points that we need to think about. Eighth grade math is one in which have many implications. I'm taking a note. If you were at the Palmer Scholars Luncheon earlier this week and you heard Superintendent Reichdale speak, he noted that we still need carpenters, we still need mechanics, we still need folks who are going to come out and service our refrigerators or whatever that might be. And yet there are implications for math in that. And so I know I used to say, I'm not going to use math when I get older. In fact, I tell my staff now, I can't really count. I'm just kidding. But I defer to other people because I put in my mindset that math wasn't for me. And sometimes that's true for students in our schools now, particularly students of color and female students. So how do we change that narrative? We see that we're flat from baseline. About 67% of students are passing algebra or geometry with a C or better. And overall, we're also seeing that there is some real gaps that exist when we disaggregate that data by race and ethnicity, particularly those in poverty. Anywhere from a 13 to a 29-point gap exists for students on this particular indicator. So what should this be telling you? We've got to do something different. If we're going to close the gap for students in poverty, we've got to be creative about how we are engaging with them, the tools and resources that we're giving with them, how we are helping them to best understand and conceptualize math concepts, not just by way of a standard textbook setting, but creatively. How do you apply that to real life? How do you think about that in your everyday? How does Minecraft, or I don't even know, the other game that kids are playing today, use math to inform, their ways that they look at it? That's how we get creative with helping students realize that they have that potential. Another data point that we want to just call attention to, where I think community has a really good opportunity to lean in, and that's attendance. Attendance, by and large, is an indicator where we have just seen persistently high chronic absenteeism rates for students in Tacoma. Many factors, they'll play into this. I'm taking a page out of a presentation the Greater Tacoma Community Foundation did a couple years back, where a kiddo was walking to class and he had a teacher standing at the door looking a little disappointed, and he says, "Sorry I'm late, but I went to bed hungry. I really didn't have a place to sleep, and I had a lot of family issues going on last night." Oftentimes, when students are missing school, it's not because they're not interested in coming to school and learning or meeting the expectations that we have on them. There are these environmental factors that are happening in our community that are preventing them from thinking about how do they actually show up every day and are ready to learn when they enter that classroom. We as a community have an opportunity to think about that differently. How are we wrapping our hands around our students? How are we giving them resources and access? How are we removing the barriers that continue to compound and impede their progress in school? And that's where I would say leaning in as a community is certainly an area for us to consider. What I would also note, particularly for this, is that you're going to hear from a good friend and a partner from Big Brothers Big Sisters who's going to talk a bit about how perhaps the programs in which they offer helps to address this. And so, again, an example of how community can lean in and actually make a difference on this particular indicator. I will just note briefly, this particular indicator, when disaggregated, has a range from 6 to 24 points of a gap for students impacted by poverty and those of color, whereby Native American students, and let me define too, we have changed our language around Hispanic to Latinx to be more inclusive geographically, as well as by way of gender. And so for students who are Latinx or Native American, you see the range and the breadth of what's happening where we need to be more intentional, explicitly identifying resources for those populations, thinking about what we need to do differently in order to help them achieve success. Finally, the area where I'm really passionate about, being someone who comes from higher education and would argue that it was my pathway out of poverty, is college completion. We as a community set a goal that we would also increase the college completion rates of students who are entering into a post-secondary institution 1 year after graduating. And we have not yet doubled down in the way that we need to in order to see that actually happen. In fact, we're down 4 points over baseline as we have been tracking. Yes, you see that this is 2010 to 2012. Note that there's a delay in reporting data, particularly because students are still in school. It takes them about 6 years to have accurate data reported, and we use that through National Clearinghouse. But you'll see all of that in the footnotes when you turn to page 27 and read that later. What I will say, though, is if we really wanted to think about how we've transformed as a community, not only our influence and impact in a school district for high school graduation, I challenge us to turn our attentions to college completion. By and large, half of the students who are enrolling into college after graduating from Tacoma Public Schools enter a 2 or 4 year institution right here in our backyard. We have 8 technical, private, public 2 and 4 year institutions, which gives our students an opportunity to stay local, to be invested in. The reality is they are going to be you in the next 10 or 20 years, and you are going to be in Arizona soaking up the sun, I'm sure. But if we don't invest in them now and give them those opportunities, then this room will be as empty as my front tables. I acknowledge that these tables are empty as well, and so I will work on that next year when we do more recruiting. Nevertheless, what I would say is college completion is an area for us to consider. You might have seen some publication that we've done around a partnership with our friends at Degrees of Change who have been working on persistence and completion for all of their career. They are going to help us lead what we need to do and think about differently. They're going to be talking with many of you, and they probably already have, about what is it going to take for a community to wrap around and support the services necessary for students to achieve success. They're going to be working with anchor institutions to start like UWT and TCC to ask the questions where our students are going. What do you need from us? How can we help you? What do we need to do differently in order to improve these outcomes? I hope that I can report this time next year the great success that we've seen in information gathering and even small wins, and that's going to be my commitment over the next year, is figuring out how do we double down in this particular area. My last note about this here graph is that the total line up top is the total number of students who graduated in 2018. When you begin to go down, you see who actually enrolled 1 year after they graduated, how many of those students persisted 1 year after they enrolled. And then from there, as we look through the continuum, for those who enrolled in 2000 and I think that's 11 or 12, how many of them actually graduated? I encourage you to dig deeper if you're interested in this data and figure out the questions that we should be trying to consider as we are improving this outcome in the years to come. So that was a lot, high level, really quick, hopefully passionate enough data to get you to start thinking about where do I fit? What's my role? How can I help? And if you're not thinking that, I wonder why you're here. So I'm going to ask you to turn and talk for a moment. You should have received a data card when you walked in at registration. You could have chosen whichever data card you're most interested in. If you didn't choose a data card, not a big deal. Turn to any of the pages in the impact report and talk about that. But what I'm going to ask you to do is to talk amongst yourself about the data as you see it, and what are the factors you think are contributing to why the data is what it is? If we're talking about 8th grade math, why do we think we're still at a 67%? Why do we see black students not performing as well as white students? What are the questions that we should be asking each other in order to figure out how do we actually address strategy to inform our practices moving forward? You're going to have about 10 minutes to talk amongst yourself, and then I'm going to bring you back in to wrap us all up. So have fun talking. I look forward to hearing your conversations. Walking around the room in just the brief moment that I did, it was really powerful to hear the conversations that you all were having. It strikes me that there is a great deal of a wealth of knowledge in this room, passionate individuals, and frankly, creative folks who can find answers to these complex challenges that we face. What will be more interesting is how you all show up in the year ahead to continue to realize some of those. In fact, later this morning, we are going to invite you to several different breakout sessions where you'll continue this conversation, you'll go a bit deeper, and you'll figure out how you all are going to lean in to actually realize that. But I think you've heard enough from me, so I have the honor and pleasure of introducing to you a wonderful poet from my alma mater, Lincoln High School, who's going to come and give you all his passion about the challenges that he and others like him face as he's trying to navigate the system. Please help me welcome Sean to the stage.
Some of the barriers that students like me face is government assistance programs. Some of the barriers that students like me face is justification. as we fight these odds, we always come out on the other side beautiful. Beauty has always been on our side. So the name of this piece is Beauty Soliquel. And a soliquel is when a character does not direct any other character in the playwright, but he talks just to the audience. So this is what Beauty had to say. I see now, as life reveals, as the information is no longer sealed, as a fallen come to till and a fallen spill, that life flashes beyond my eyes, and I start to finalize and realize that, oh, I'm sorry, I was waiting for your applause, but I'm just starving and stressing about as people redefine living. You clap your claps and have your laughs, but we don't do something, then life that me and you and I will just no longer be. As we defy and typify and rely, and then this time is not as fine, it is at its prime. Don't spend your time being an infidel or kiss and tell or try to run your life by a bell. But I come to tell you on this sunny day that we are not in a disarray. Don't spend your time trying to be flowery, but ease your mind doing some pottery, but trying to be perfect is still a fantasy. Do not believe in the norm, but believe in the stuff that makes your heart warm. But I come to sing you a lullaby that we can do anything we like until we die. Don't be scared of death. It is not the end. The rules can be bent and then amend. So when you leave this world, you will rate your life a 10. Beauty Soliquel. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. I got the privilege of saying thank you to Sean as he walked out, and we appreciate your time and your thoughtfulness. And for everyone, let's give another round of applause for Sean. Good morning. My name's Luis Garcia, and I have the privilege of serving as the CEO and president of Big Brothers Big Sisters of Puget Sound. And I am completely humbled and honored to receive this invitation to speak this morning. With Collective Impact, as we all know, it's hard work, even harder to actually trigger change and progress over years towards the aspiration that we all had to serve students and youth. And so being in front of this audience is pretty fantastic because it's filled with amazing partners in the school system, with the foundation, and other organizations in the community serving students together, undergraduate Tacoma. So thank you very much. I was asked to talk about transitions, and I had about 45 minutes of data prepared. And luckily, Tafana and her team said, no. We got the data covered. Transitions. Let's share some stories and let's have a call to action. And I think all of our journeys begin with ourselves and our stories. I'm the son of 2 refugees who came in the 60s to this country to fulfill the American dream. And in the 60s and 70s, the American dream was part of assimilation. And I was raised just to be an American. And so in all that time, it was about being American. And not until my adulthood did I have a different view and worldview of embracing my Latino culture. And that is part of what drives me now, and being in the education space. So my career the past 30-some years has been in education and fighting for the youth and for combating achievement gaps. And really, my mantra in my head, if anyone could get a view into my head, is in order to fight the man, you got to be the man. And education has been the key for my family, who always told me, you know, we came to this country with the clothes we were wearing and our education. And so education is the key to everything. And I like to share that because, you know, I've always, I had some passing privileges and was able to get away with many things. I should probably be dead or in jail from all the stupid things I did growing up and young adulthood. And that drives me even more with Big Brothers Big Sisters. Because sometimes walking that line, there's temptations. And as community partners, we know we're not here to change kids' lives. We're here to help build their paths to the future. Show of hands. How many of you have been a big brother or big sister, or have been a parent to a little, or even you're ready to meet your little brother or sister, which I know is happening in the room, and raise your hand pretty high. Take a glance around. There's a beautiful community, and there's mentoring all over our community and through our partnerships. But take 10 seconds in your head and think about someone who is a mentor to you in your life and your transitions in life, going from middle to high school or elementary to middle school, or even from high school to what you did after high school. Take 10 seconds and think about a mentor. Now grab a pen or get on your phones and email yourself. Make sure sometime by the end of the weekend, you reach out to one of those mentors and just say thank you and give them an update on your life and what impact they had on your life. Small but mighty and powerful action. And then I'll find out, I'm going to check up with each one of you to make sure you did that next week. But we're all in this room together because we believe together that all kids should graduate from high school and pursue their dreams with the full support of the community. We all believe that a young person's chances of finishing high school shouldn't have anything to do with the color of the skin, the amount of money their family has, their parents' marital status, or any other label that society places on them. We believe that we, the collective community, have a role to play in making sure that these factors and these labels don't keep our kids from achieving their dreams. Because we share these ideas and values, we've come together to be part of this amazing, amazing movement called Graduate Tacoma. And the students are responding to our collective action. We just heard from Carla and Tafana about the amazing accomplishments since 2010. That doesn't mean the work is done. That is just part of the journey, not the end of the journey. But as exciting as it is, there's still more work to do. Parents and students are reaching out and demanding that all of us partners continue to do more together. Despite the incredible progress we've shared in Tacoma, there's still more levers we can pull, especially for students of color who continue to have less opportunities and resources available to them. No matter how much progress we make, the opportunities keep shifting. For immigrant students and English learners like myself who not only deal with the language challenges, they must also encounter fear of undocumented status, of racial bias, and of social segregation on campus. Homeless kids who are labeled in transition on top of going through the regular transitions in school. And those are just to name a few. There are many, many more. And yet we must always pause and celebrate the fact that many kids who are faced with challenges are breaking the cycles. They're building their own paths to promising futures, building their own stories. And we've heard a few of those today. And we continue as partners to thrive and get excited and get refueled by those stories. In terms of transition, right, 9th grade, as we heard from Tafana, has become this bellwether for being able to show some indicators of high school graduation. And there's a different level of responsibility that happens in middle school, right? And independence, building some identity. Alongside that, different loneliness that comes with being in middle school. I had to keep a little bit of statistics in here. So the Washington Student Achievement Council says that among youth who recently dropped out of high school, 1/3 did not pass courses in their 9th grade year. As the data shows, that's a significant indicator. In Tacoma, according to the OSPI data, 27% of current TPS seniors didn't pass a core class in 9th grade. Among the low-income students, that number jumps to 39%. Even though moving to high school is a part of growing up, even though it's normal, it still disrupts kids' lives. And change can be hard, especially for youth already dealing with instability in other areas of their life. We still have a responsibility as a community, as partners, to provide supports during transitional periods. The organization I'm at, Big Brothers Big Sisters, works with thousands of kids every year and hundreds in Pierce County, and they all live in our region in all kinds of families, all kinds of backgrounds. But I can tell you one thing that they all have in common is encountering change and transitions. So what continues to bring us together? Change, disruption, instability, transitions, whatever you want to call it. These struggles like these get in the way of a young person's ability to make the most of their talents and inherent potential. But let's not forget that school is a constant in the lives of almost all children. More importantly, the structure of schools may provide a lot of those youth-facing challenges with that one sense of comfort, with the one place that there is stability. The one place where they can get away from some of those big challenges and get a refresh. And they can focus on themselves, think about their futures, work towards building their own path to their success. And it's a place where many teachers, many coaches, and mentors and administrators are supportive, and they treat students like they matter. We see the assets, the potential, the talents, the shining moments that our students share with us. And being an operator as a partner, I'm often humbled by the brilliance and vision of our young people today. Unfortunately, there are researchers, right, and scientists. They like to focus on categorizing the deficits that our students live with. They signify that they detract from a child's well-being. But as we can't say enough, we shouldn't be defining ourselves or our students by deficits. Every student, every person also has valuable strengths. Families and our community ties, our personal strengths, our compassion, our experience are all things that bring us together to Graduate Tacoma, and let's continue to celebrate that as partners. The strengths that our students inherently have are what makes future success possible. We all have deficits of sorts, right? But that is not what defines us. The strengths need to define us and lead us. We as a community, as a collective, need to continue adding to the vaults of our students and young people so that they continue to build their confidence and their strengths. Over the last decade, 9th grade early warning indicators have shifted the way that educators perceive and address the issues of high school dropout. Rather than waiting until students are almost done with high school, which is too late to try and change that trajectory sometimes, educators are now working much more earlier to prevent students from failing in the first place. Schools are holding themselves accountable for reaching kids early, and Tacoma is doing an amazing job at that. Yet at the same time, we all know our teachers and our schools must focus their attention on educating and being educators. There's so many demands on their time. There's demands on them to build relationships with students, and there's demands on them to pitch in with their own resources. There's just so many hours in the day and dollars in their paychecks. And there's only so much our schools and teachers can do alone, and it isn't fair for us as a community to ask our teachers to do everything. Fortunately, we have partners like all of us in this room that are standing strong together with our educators and through Graduate Tacoma. I do want to share a little story about related to transitions. Jada, who I met 4 years ago, she was a high school student, and she was one of 7 adopted kids in her family. And by the way, all 6 of her siblings have a big brother or big sister. But now Jada shared with me that when she was younger, she faced lots of changes and transitions as a foster child. Different homes, things happened at school, abuse, witnessing drugs and other bad behaviors in the home. And we introduced her to her big sister, Jennifer, and she put up a big front. She said, "Who is this stranger trying to be my friend?" Actually, she said, "Who is this white lady stranger trying to be my friend?" And she was very slow to transition to that relationship. But eventually, they built an amazing friendship and sisterhood that will last a lifetime. And so last year, got to catch up from Jada. She was thinking about what she was going to do after high school. She was thinking about college, and she had the love and support of a single mom who was her adoptive mom, who, by the way, was a big sister 30-some years ago and still keeps in touch with her little sister. And Jada had the love and support of her mentor, her big sister Jennifer. Together, they spent time talking about a plan and what would the transition look like and what would be different from high school and then in college. What would be different for her as an adoptive child, a young person coming from the foster system. That was a big transition point, no doubt about it. But she's making it happen. She's at Western Washington and Bellingham, and she is thriving. She's thriving during the transitions, and we know that a mentor like Jennifer continues to be a major part of her life, and they are best friends. And Jada's story is shared by many, many young people facing all kinds of adversity, where a strong relationship with a trusted adult is a significant part of what is making a difference in breaking through some of those achievement gaps and those barriers that get thrown in front of our young people. Study after study proves that a relationship with a caring adult makes a huge difference. Some kids have a great relationship with their parents. They have relationships with a coach, or a teacher they trust, or an administrator they trust. We believe that every student needs a mentor. It's not just an intervention for what might be considered at-risk, but every young person can benefit from a mentor. Someone who will be in their corner no matter what. Someone who's not pretending to be a parent, but can say the same thing as a parent, and a young person will actually listen to the mentor. Someone who will fight for them, go to a parent-teacher conference with them, someone who will have their backs and share their knowledge and experience and share of their connections so that that young person can help build their own path to success in the future. And that someone is someone like all of you. Real quick, raise your hand if you've been a mentor to a young person in some way, shape, or form. Good. I think it's really important that we all should raise our hands for that question. It can change your life. And change is part of our lives, right? No child can grow up and graduate from high school if they don't change. Likewise, organizations have to grow and change in order to succeed. Graduate Tacoma taught Big Brothers Big Sisters a lot of those lessons as well. We've been a part of Pierce County for 60 years, and we continue to reintroduce ourselves to the community in different ways that we evolve and change and respond to the community and society. We work with amazing students, amazing partnerships, amazing administrators, and the foundation, and we're so just honored to be part of this collective impact. And as we change to meet the needs and demands of the community, so has the community changed. Over the past couple of years, a wait list just for our organization has doubled to over 300 youth whose parents have signed up, putting trust in us, wanting to work together to clear a path for their kids to build their own future. Mentoring provides a friendship, but it does need time to develop. Mentoring is not a quick fix, it is a relationship. And as an organization, we've changed to be better responsive to the social emotional learning of our students, promoting a sense of belonging, of independence, and being prepared to negotiate in life the personal and interpersonal challenges that they will face. And we continue to build the capacity to successfully manage our own place and impact in kids' lives. We also continue to evolve and change as an organization, and all of us partners as well, in being able to be culturally responsive. And what kind of options are there for students of color who appropriately seek to find a sense of belonging themselves and be mentored and influenced by people who look like them? I'm asking all of you to consider mentoring a Tacoma student. Find an option that works for you. And find another person in your life to consider doing it as well. If everyone in this room influenced just one other person to become a mentor, we could find mentors for hundreds of Tacoma students right away. While it's not a quick fix, there is an urgency. The one excuse that's not acceptable, and I hear it all the time, is I don't have enough time. Right? That's probably the first thing in your head when I said you should consider mentoring a young person. I don't have enough time. We are all busy, but as champions for education and our youth, we can't just keep feeding on fumes and caffeine. We need to find a personal connection with a young person. Our young people need advice. They need to hear experiences of good and bad as they pursue their path towards enrollment in higher education, enlistment in the military, or starting a career with employment. And I guarantee you that mentoring a young person will change your life and it will be extremely rewarding, doing something else for the community. I'm a big brother to Monty, and what was pretty neat is we were intentionally matched because he's comes from an immigrant family as well. His mom works very hard to support him and his little sister, and I've been his big brother for 5 years, and he's in his second year of college right now. And I could tell you our conversations are very different now than they were 5 years ago when he was in 8th or 9th grade. There's some really big life challenges. And my mentoring experience with Monty influenced my leadership and what Big Brothers Big Sisters is doing in the high school space, helping prepare young people for career in college, and using our leverage with corporate partnerships to help students get access and exposure to different jobs and what it means to be in a job, what it means to be in college. About 8 or 9 years ago, there was this thing called the American Graduate Project. And the most stunning statistic from there, and I feel lucky to have not been one of those statistics, is while college graduation rates, and you've seen some of the statistics before from Tafana, they stay at 50%. For the 150 years in American higher education system, it's always been 50% graduation rate. Back then, when it was attendance by elite and wealthy white folks, it was 50%. Now, the average is 50%, but there are huge gaps in who's graduating with their degrees. Kids of color, and especially low-income students, they're barely reaching 10% graduation rates and finishing college or any kind of higher education degree. I tell myself that every single day. Why are we in this space? Why are we talking about transitions? Why is Big Brothers Big Sisters, who serves kids from 6 to 18, talking about what can we do to keep serving kids through 20, 21, 22, through their transitions through college and after high school? It's because it matters. Transitions don't stop happening once young people leave high school. And we feel a responsibility to continue the supports beyond that. Tafana mentioned the National Clearinghouse. One nugget of statistics that we extracted from that National Clearinghouse is we sent data going back 10 years, 12 years actually, on all the kids who had a big brother or big sister, and asked for what was their graduation rates from college, from higher education. And we found that the kids who went through Big Brothers Big Sisters had attained higher education degrees 11% higher than the peer group that we compared to. Not a giant statistical jump, but pretty darn significant when we talk about volume and numbers. And that studies show having a caring adult in a young person's life can make a huge difference. I know all of you probably already volunteer in some way, shape, or form on boards, in schools, with other organizations. I know there already draws on your time, but there are hundreds, probably thousands of kids right here in Tacoma who need and want a relationship with a caring adult, and especially people who look like them, look like me, look like many of you, and speak their language, help them maybe learn a new language. So I was asked to do a call to action. So the call to action is find a way to mentor a young person. Not just once, but whenever you can. You can go to mentortacoma.org, and there are other options. You can see a flyer on your table. But all of us together, we continue to keep making a difference for all Tacoma students and keep moving the needle with Graduate Tacoma, an amazing movement that is making a difference, despite all the naysayers and legislation that tries to put restrictions. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. And I appreciate of being part of Graduate Tacoma, as many of you also are.
I will graduate Tacoma, go to college, and become a therapist or open a bakery.
I will graduate Tacoma, go to college, and become a police officer.
I will graduate Tacoma, go to college, and become an interior designer.
I will graduate Tacoma and go to a beauty school.
I will graduate Tacoma, go to a college, and get a type of degree in forensic study and become a forensic detective.
I will go to college. I will graduate Tacoma, go to college, and become a psychologist.
I will graduate Tacoma, go to university, and become an astronomer.
I will graduate Tacoma, go to college, and become a lawyer.
I'll graduate Tacoma, go to college, and become a teacher.
I'll graduate Tacoma and go to college and become a music producer.
I will graduate Tacoma, go to college, and become a certified photographer.
I'll graduate Tacoma, go to University of South California, and become a nurse.
I'll graduate Tacoma, go to college, and become an engineer.
I'll graduate Tacoma, go to college, and become a computer technician.
I'll graduate Tacoma, go to college, and become a track runner.
I'll graduate Tacoma, go to a technical college in California, become an electric engineer.
I will graduate Tacoma, go to University of Washington, and be a computer technician.
I'll graduate Tacoma, go to college, and be an artist.
I'll graduate Tacoma, go to University of Washington, become a veterinarian.
I will graduate Tacoma, go to college, and become a skin painter.
Please give it up for the class of 2023 and 2024. Stay here for just a moment. This is our future, friends. These are the students that will be replacing you. Get ready. Congratulations, students. We thank you. We're so appreciative of you. Stay the course. You all are going to do great work. For the next portion of our event, I'm going to invite you all to stay with us just a little while longer. I'm going to break you up into a few different rooms here today. We have rooms for early learning, out of school and summer learning, which will be located, or STEAM learning and Tacoma College support, which will be located here in Journey Hall. The partition will fall down in just a few moments. The back half will be for out of school and summer learning. The front half will be for the Tacoma College Support Network. At the Topping Center, we'll have STEAM learning folks and early learning folks. So the data that you're most interested in or resonate most with, I encourage you to find your way to either of those rooms. I have a special session for executive level leaders today. I'm asking any CEOs, presidents, or executive directors to join me just outside this Journey Hall and Voyage studio for a conversation about opportunities and furthering the work that we've been doing so far. All of this will take place at 9:45 exactly, and we will end at 11:30. Exactly. Before we do that, and in true Graduate Tacoma fashion, my friend and founding president and CEO, Mr. Eric Wilson in the back, let's give him a round of applause. He's so incredible. He's going to help coordinate our favorite photo of the year. Yes, jazz hands, get ready. We're going to ask that you all exit the building, go straight down the hallway to the green pasture out there. We're going to take a quick photo, but then we're all going to barricade the parking lot because you can't leave so that you make your way to one of the breakout sessions that we've just described. If you have questions, see one of our staff. But I do want to formally thank you for joining us for this front half of the program. You all are rock stars. We'll see you out for a photo in just a few minutes. Thank you, guys. Great job. Yeah.